The upcoming winter storm and cold wave might very well be the worst storm the metro area has to experience in the entire year of 2026. I know there's a whole year ahead of us, but it's a strong candidate. We're looking at the potential for 8 to 10 inches of snow, possibly even up to a foot, which would obviously be very bad for the area, as it would lead to a lot of destructive impacts throughout the area. And then the cold wave, today is probably going to be the last above freezing day for the rest of the month. Probably February 3rd or 4th is when temperatures crack above freezing. The high today, I think, was 37 or 38. And yeah, we're not going to see temperatures leave the 20s afterwards. Not only is this potential to be a long cold wave, it'll be a rough one too. There might be a few days where it reaches 28 or 29, but it's not even like there's a few days where it has a chance to reach freezing, like what we saw in other cold waves where they wound up snapping early because of that. So now it got me curious, and I don't have my computer in front of me because I'm doing this kind of last second, and I have other videos I have to get done on my computer, but this does raise the question for me. What were the worst storms in the New York area past couple years? 2025, I think it's got to be one of the floods. Now, 2025 was a dry year, but it's weird. Whenever it rained, it like came down hard and was destructive. I think I'm gonna tip it over slightly to July 14th over the nor'easter related to Melissa on October 30th, because the one on Melissa got about 1.8 inches of rain. The one involving this July one was about 2.6 inches of rain, over 2 inches in a single hour. There were 2 fatalities in Plainfield, New Jersey as well. So I'm inclined to say that was the worst storm of 2025. It's close, and there aren't really any super destructive storms that really stand out. So that's what I'm going to say. 2024 might be the drought. Wildfires caused 2 deaths. It ultimately caused billions of dollars in damage. It's weird. After flooding killed 2 in Connecticut on August 18th, there was like less than 2 inches of rain that came down until a storm on November 21st. That's insane. And of course, November 21st brought record rain to end that streak. But it really turned 2024 from a year that was trending to be wetter than average into a year that wound up being drier than average because of that horrific drought. There were like 40 consecutive days without rain in Newark, and even when that streak ended on Veterans Day, it wasn't by a lot. It was dry overall in the U.S., and the storms that came mostly happened to just miss the New York metro area entirely, and it was just very, very destructive in the impacts that it caused. So I'm inclined to say the 2024 drought was the worst in 2024. 2023 is an odd case. I would cite the floods on September 29th, 2023 as absolutely historical. On the heels of an already wet month, this pushed September 2023 to be the second wettest month on record. Or second wettest September on record, at the very least, and one of the wettest months on record. Complete opposite of the fall of 2024, as the fall of 2023 actually had constant rain, and this is the exclamation point, over 5 inches of rain fell in just one day. Despite causing over $100 million in damage and severe property damage, forcing the Prospect Park Zoo to close for 8 months, though, there weren't any fatalities, which is good. So it makes it a little bit tougher for me to say that this is the worst storm of 2023 just on that basis, when there weren't any lives that actually wound up being lost as a result of this. But it's not like there's, other storms that I could just go out there and say were just the worst, because 2023 overall, despite being a wet year, mostly spared the metro area from any intense casualties. So I think I am going to say that it was still the flooding on September 29th. 2022, there were 4 deaths on Long Island from a blizzard on January 29th. Despite only 8 inches of snow at Central Park, about 2 feet fell at Islip, which was a record. So in that case, that certainly has a strong case. There was a drought over the summer, but it wasn't quite as bad as whatever happened in 2024. And again, were there a bunch of destructive storms? Yes. The blizzard of December 2022 does not count because that affected upstate New York, and the impacts felt in the metro area, while significant, were not as significant as the blizzard on January 29th, 2022, which again, snowiest day in the history of Islip. So I'm still inclined to say it's that, just because I feel like there's nothing else, at least as of yet, that's overcome it for the New York Metro. 2021 is Ida. The remnants of Ida caused about 50 fatalities in the New York metropolitan area. There was over 7 inches of rain that came down on September 1st, and some parts of the metro area had even higher amounts. And property damage was over $15 billion. It was absolutely insane what Ida did to the area. And honestly, the reason why Republicans might have had a bit of a good year in New Jersey in 2021 might have been Democrats' poor response to the aftermath of Ida. Of course, 2025 rescinded those gains immediately. 2020 is going to be Isaias. Again, nothing too obvious, too notable at first glance, so I'm just saying Isaias because, it did cause a couple deaths in the area. It probably caused billions of dollars in damage in the area. It was a tropical storm with winds 50 miles an hour in the area, and it caused millions of power outages as well. So without anything, clear cut, I'm going to say it's Isaias. And that's all I have time for. Every year kind of has a different story. Some years it'll be clear and obvious, like 2012 is clear and obvious, 2011 is clear and obvious, in terms of the worst storms. But other times in years like 2018, it can be quite ambiguous, seeing as lots of storms can cause their own impacts, and it's tough to differentiate one from the other.